And a pleasant Friday. Welcome to Lone Star Park at Grand Prairie. Alongside Rick Lee, track handicapper and morning line maker, I'm Jim Byers. Let's analyze today's 9 races. We're fast on the main track, good on the turf course. Rick, I don't think it's given away too much to say that when we handicapped these races initially a few days ago, I didn't think we were looking at a fast and good situation. The weather forecasts were quite dire for several days, and parts of the area have gotten rain fairly frequently, and we got some rain here a couple days ago, pushed us off the turf last night, but turned out to not be a very big deal, to this point at least. We're not totally out of the woods, so we're back on turf, and so we had to do a little adjusting. Plus, there's a bunch of scratches, so we'll pass those along. But the first race, scratch-free to this point, Texas bred, $5,000 claiming fillies, going 3/4. I thought this was a fairly wide open race. I mean, I have a lot of scribble marks where I changed picks a few days ago when I initially did them, and I don't know how you felt about this race, but I think you could throw this race in the shaker and come out with some different results depending on what happens.
Yeah, the morning line's really tight in this race. I went with the 4 Sassy Kenzie Girls, my top selection. I like how she's run in state-bred competition. Her last start, she ran against Karate Hottie, who came back to win again. That was in the mud against open $7,500 rivals. You see her previous race in the condition claimer restricted Texas bred was a really nice win. At Houston again against Texas bred competition. Forwardly Place, again, runs a terrific race. The last start being on mud, you notice she does not have a good record in the mud, but she's won 3 of 11 on a fast track. So all those things together, I'm giving her the slightest of edges. The 8 Dust World Wonder for Tina Hurley is my next selection, was claimed after beating $5,000 state-bred rivals at Houston March 24th. That was just 2 starts back. That race came after losing a really tough luck race, beating only a neck. New Connections got ambitious running in the Blue Bonnet at Lone Star here opening weekend, and was just an even effort. 7th from start to finish. Now back in for 5,000 state bred. Obviously spotted well today. And the 7 Mimi Song, who has won 4 of her last 12 races. Really good form at Delta Downs. Shipped up here to Lone Star Park last time out for Broberg. Did not run especially well. Was claimed, though, by Matt Hebert, a really good up-and-coming trainer. He's winning at a really high percentage. This mare likes to win when she gets things her own way. I think she didn't break as well as she typically does last time out. If she's into the race early, she's got a good chance to win. Again, first time for Matt Hebert.
Yeah, a lot to like about her, but I wound up using her 4th just from that puzzling effort on April 23rd. I didn't actually see any work since. Do your PP show any work since then? So no work since. Didn't show any speed last time. Didn't see any particular trouble. Just didn't get out very well. Just a real blah effort at 6-5. I went with Dust World Wonder. By the way, Ezekiel Lara is off his mounts. Weston Hamilton picks up the mount on Dust World Wonder. I think she hits pretty hard at this level, and like you say, it's a really close call. I went with her over Sassy Kenzie Girl, but it was, Sassy Kenzie Girl's last race on the mud was really impressive, and Ann has come back and worked since. Looks like a pretty good half-mile breeze, so would be no surprise to see Sassy Kenzie Girl be the winner, and she was one that I had on top for a while before I reshuffled the picks a few days ago. But I went 8-4. I went with Triple Bold Baby as a 3rd pick. I was all over the Broberg barn last night, and we didn't have a very good night. But today's a different day, and I think Triple Bold Baby's last race was pretty impressive. They've entered her in some other spots since, including yesterday, scratched her for this. She might be good enough to lead for a while here. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have the pace figure of Mimi Song, but Mimi Song, like you said, didn't break well or didn't show that alertness last time out. And if that's indicative of where she is now, then Triple Bowl Baby may get a way easier lead today than we kind of thought originally.
Yeah. Speaking of fast paces, let's talk about the second race. Scratch the 1, Owner's Suite, 5/8 turf sprint. Now, I picked this Shield Park last time, fresh off a Turf Paradise maiden win in really nice fashion. She was 10-1 here on our turf course May 9th. Blitzed the field. Let's watch the last part of that race here. Shield Park is going to be on the lead here. She's wearing number 9. She's on the lead right here. for trainer Greg Green, sailing along. Ernesto Valdez-Jimenez not having to use her. She opens up a nice lead here in the stretch. And what I like, Rick, about her is, okay, he gets into her a little bit here, but she's well clear of these. And the lead diminishes a little bit late. But that runner-up isn't really getting to her. I mean, this is like her lead diminishes like a basketball team gives up some buckets when they put the subs in the last minute or two. She ran them right off their feet last time. And you know, can she win 3 in a row? I mean, she certainly was a modest runner at Turf Paradise, but I've liked the way she's won her last 2, so I'm going to give her the nod.
Yeah, and I'm going with her this time. I let you pick her last time. You know, I under my breath, I scoffed at the selection since she was 3-5 and a bottom level maiden claimer at Turf Paradise. That never means a win here at Lone Star.
No. But we did show that
sharper.
Race that it was a pretty handy win, though.
Yeah, you actually did. Yeah, you actually did. And I still thought it was a little silly, but now I've been humbled. I mean, you were dead on, 10-1. And I actually like that race so much. I'm picking her over Ignis today. I mean, she went 44-2. That's a very rapid half mile. She's getting better with every start, just a lightly raced 3-year-old filly. I think she's found her niche on turf, and I think she'll park strictly the one to catch in here, so I'm taking her today. Ignis, who I did make the 8-5 favorite, and I still think she'll go favored, coming off really narrow defeats against allowance rivals, turf sprinting, one at Lone Star, one at Houston, now dropping into a condition claimer for trainer Steve Asmussen. So Ignis has all the markings of a filly that's going to go favored. She's just going to have to come and try to run down Shield Park, and you know, maybe she'll be able to do it, but I don't think the price warrants a play. The 7, Honey Hush, who I certainly like to, did finish in front of Ignis March 25th at Houston. Has been in good form. Last time out, she broke 9th of 9 in the same race as Ignis exits. Finished, less than 2 lengths behind her that day. If she breaks more alert, she does typically break a little bit slow, though, so you can't actually say, well, if she breaks good today. She rarely breaks good, but she did break especially poorly last time out. And, indicative of what she's capable of at Remington Park in a race, a turf sprint where she actually did break with the field. She was a 4-length winner for $30,000.
Yeah, I agree. I'm kind of curious as to her style. I mean, sometimes if she does break sharply, she can be up on the engine and be pretty effective, but that isn't necessarily always her go-to. She's kind of an in-and-outer as far as what kind of style she's going to throw at you, but I have the same picks in the same order. The 2, Frenchie Frou Frou, is really intriguing for me. Number 1, Luzzy rides for Broberg. That's not a combination that rides together a lot. But David Cabrera's on a riding suspension, so Broberg's having to go into his bench a little bit, if you will. And, Frenchie Frou Frou, I noticed on your picks in the program, you had her on top originally. I liked her second originally when we thought it was going to be a off-the-turf race, but that's not the case now. Because 2 races back at Oaklawn, I mean, she won by, it says ahead, but if you watch the video, it looked like she won by about 1.5 inches in rallying fashion. I don't know what she can do on the turf. Her turf races at NYRA were unimpressive, but they were at Belmont and Saratoga. I'm curious to see how she fares today.
Yeah, me too.
This race might be too fast, too quick at 5/8 for her.
I'm hoping so today.
Yeah,
Not 2 weeks ago, but today. I'm really hoping.
Exactly. Third race. Interesting high percentage barns throughout the trainers in this one. Scratch the 2, Tappin' for a Dance. Scratch the 3, Optimal, who ran yesterday. 7/8 of a mile for condition claimers. I think this is a really contentious race, even though it's down to a 4-horse field now.
Yeah, I do too. 4 horses. I'm with the 6 competitive idea for Todd Fincher, who this 4-year-old ran really well at 6 furlongs at Zia, winning one, allowance race as well, competitive by her speed figures. Kind of make excuses for her last 3 races. 2 are routes. One was a 7/8 at Delta, so I made the mark, 3 consecutive 2-turn races. Looks to me to be clearly better sprinting. 7/8 of a mile, I think, fits well. She's got the fastest pace figure in the race, so I think if she breaks well, she'll be in a really good position being outside her 3 rivals. The 4, Tis All Up to Me Now for Asmussen. I did make the favorite off those really strong races at Remington, the best buyers in the field, plus the fact at Lone Star Park, 3 times she's been on our main track, has 2 wins and a 3rd-place finish. So likes Lone Star, big buyers at Remington, and I think her 2 starts this year, one at Houston and a turf sprint, easy to draw a line through that one. And then her last start was only at 5 furlongs. So I really feel like she's sitting on a really good race. And then we'll go to the 5, Jack's Advantage for J.R. Caldwell. Caldwell's like Gustafson. He's not one of what we generally call the big 3, but he's having a tremendous meeting.
Yeah.
Finished 3rd, beaten only 1 length in a condition claiming with the same non-winners of 4 condition at Houston. And then opening weekend here was overmatched a little bit, but still ran a solid 4th and against a field that's a little bit better than this one. So forwardly placed, I expect Jack's Advantage to get a perfect trip, and any of the 3 of the 4 I think stand a real good chance. Nothing gets crazy legs hurts, but I think he'll have to improve a little bit to beat the other 3.
Yeah, I completely agree. Listen for our changes and watch for our changes when they come up on the crawl, because Ezekiel Lara is off, and I think Goncalves rides Jack's Advantage here, but I didn't write it on my PPs before I came down. But I don't have much to add. The only thing I might add about Competitive Idea is you go back to his race 3 races back, the mile on the main track at Sam Houston. He ran against Kenai Bob, who's a really nice main track miler type, and Sheriff Brown, who's also a Fincher, who's made $220,000. I mean, he was running in some really salty races and acquitting himself fairly well. And like you said, if you go back a little farther to his sprints, I mean, his sprints are pretty good. So I think it's a real good spot for him. First time in for a tag. He used to be a Southwest Stakes type horse in New Mexico. I think it's go time. I like Competitive Idea even when those other 2 were kind of, a little bit of outsiders were still in the field. On to the 4th. State bred, non-winners of 2 claimers here, fillies and mares. Scratch the 5, Whipham Nene. When isn't Whipham Nene scratched? She's the queen of entering and scratching. And also the horse that I liked right from Jump Street, the 8, Ms. Red Rocket, in a bit of an upset. It was Ms. Red Rocket had an odd profile, claimed by Asmussen for $5,000 on his own behalf back in March, and then he never worked her in the interim in the 2 months since, nor did he find a race for her. But she's not going to run today either, but I still was going to pick her today.
Yeah, I'm going to go with That's a Lot of Bling. Gustafson, he's won, when we pick him, and then he wins when you think he's 3rd, 4th best. He's having a phenomenal 2 years. I'm going to go that far. I mean, the guy's been tremendous since he burst onto the scene here. This one is a non-winners of 2 state bred, $7,500 claimer. You can see his recent form. He's running a pair of stakes, finished 3rd in the 2 Altozano. They finally dropped him down after an allowance race that was, so-so. He caught a muddy track at this level, beaten at 3 to 5. No fractional splits that day. But the winner did win on the lead, so
right.
it tells
she's
you
fast. Lady Fly Like Jet, who won that race, is early speed fast.
Yeah, she's early speed fast. So my point was That's a Lot of Bling didn't tire because the pace was too fast. I mean, since the winner won on the lead, but nevertheless, that was a good effort on a wet track. Now on a fast track, I just going to give this filly the edge. The 4 Dixie Carousel, fast track maiden winner last year at Lone Star Park. Was given a lot of time, returned here April 29th for Gustafson, who put her at the same exact level. Made a belated rally to 4th, picked up the pieces there. Second start after a long layoff. The switch to Ramon Vasquez, in my mind is big. This combination wins at a 32% clip. So, again, second time off the bench for Gustafson. I'm going to take Dixie Carousel as a major player. And the 7, High Def Ridge, who did finish in front of Dixie Carousel last time out on May 8th, now cutting back to a sprint. This horse has just a dreadful 1-for-46 career record, but you can tell her 15 starts at Lone Star. By far, she prefers Lone Star surface over any other.
Yeah, we're not very different here in these early picks, part of it because of the scratches. I went with That's a Lot of Bling as well over Dixie Carousel, who might have needed a tightener last time out. I mean, it was her first race since August, and seem to be kind of nondescript. My third pick is Head Over Boots, the 3. I'm just keep waiting one of these days for her to wire a field or to get out there and go fast and maybe not look back. But for me, it was scratching and clawing time to try to come up with a third pick after those scratches. Yeah. On to the 5th. 5/8 on turf. $15,000 claiming tag for fillies and mares. Scratch the 4, Dr. Liz. Also scratched the main track only, the 9, Karate Hottie. I thought, when this race stayed on turf, if you will, this race looked obvious when it was on the main, when we thought it might get switched off with Karate Hottie, but I had to do some serious re-handicapping when this stayed on the turf.
Yeah, and if Shield Park wires this field impressively earlier in the card, then my pick of Cobra Casablanca I'm going to like more in this race. Cobra Casablanca, as you can see by the PPs, extremely fast. Last time out on the main track, a race washed off our turf course, opened up 4, went very fast, and just kept on running to win by 6 1/4 lengths. That was in a $15,000 condition claimer. This is open $15,000. But you can see earlier in her career, she was wiring special weights, won an entry-level allowance, going 5 1/2 at Fairgrounds. Of course, it generally isn't near as speed favoring as some of the others in the region. I just think she's sharp, very fast, and I think she's strictly the one to catch. The 5, Gracely, has 2 recent wins. One, a pair at Houston where she rallied to win. Last time out at Lone Star Park, she entered an allowance race, turf sprint, so she's taken a bit of a drop in class. She didn't have trouble, but she did lose ground late on the turn, beating only 2 lengths. If you're beating 2 lengths in an allowance race, drop into 15, you should be a major player. And it's Austin Gustafson again. So he's got a live late running sort here. And then let's go for Reef's Sake, who had her 2-race winning streak snapped at Houston and turf sprints here, finishing second to Cypress Point at this exact same level. Now has been over the course, so should improve off that. Has won 4 of 11 turf sprints in her career. She's a picture of consistency, and I really like the way if she's up close, she battles on. If they sprint away from her, she's really won some of these turf sprints from well off the pace. Yeah. So she's quite versatile.
Yeah, and I kind of like to see that. I'm getting to where I don't like at this course at least, off the pace turf sprinters. I normally try to find the best speed, but I went with For Reef's Sake here. I might be just giving you a win here because I like Cobra Casablanca as well. That match race that she was in last time, the second place finisher, Quinella, did come back and win. We jokingly said, that might be a really productive race. But, I look at that as like a 5/8 workout, basically, because Quinella just couldn't keep up with her. And if she came into this off a 5/8 work in 58-1, you'd think, wow, that's, But I went with For Reef's Sake only for that reason you just mentioned, that she does tend to battle on. I don't know if she's as good as Cobra Casablanca, who's very hard to beat to the front, but I do think that there's a mare on the outside, Delicious Pursuit, who's also hard to beat to the front, who had a lot of start trouble here on April 25th and so ran, way up the track. But she gets out of there okay. She might be able to press Cobra a little bit. Maybe that might compromise her. I don't know. I just think For Reef's Sake might be able to lay close enough to have a punch. Cobra Casablanca has some really nice races in her past, but occasionally she can kind of give it up a little bit late. But she can also just go out and wire them too. So I'm probably giving you one here. But I'm going to go with the 7. I think she has a chance to beat the favorite. Gracely, a solid third pick. I thought this was a race that was quite competitive.
Yeah, and Delicious Pursuit did earn an 88 buyer last summer at Arlington in a turf sprint. So if she breaks clean, she definitely has a shot. I feel like I laid her a little high at 10-1. I gave too much credence, I think, to that last race, which was abysmal. But the start was so poor for her. I think I should have probably made her 6-1. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it's all right. We've got a video here for the state-bred non-winners of Two Other Than Allowance in race 6. My top pick is different from yours, so we're diverging a little bit again here. Algebra is going to be our video selection from his last win here, April 24th. He's going to be the number 2 horse. He's going to have white silks with red sleeves. He's inside here, back along the inside in that kind of second group. And what I liked about this horse was it looks like right here he's going to have to settle maybe for third. And maybe these front 2 start to hang a little bit. But here comes Algebra right up the inside under Lane Luzzy. Typical Lane Luzzy rail skimming trip. And this horse gets up and wins. Shifty Henry was that, in good judgment, who were the horses up front. They're pretty nice.
Yep.
And I don't know. I'm going to give Algebra the look. Gold Pilot, who I know is your top pick, he is still your top pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty reliable late closer. Tends to be a slow starter, but at 6.5 furlongs, maybe it won't matter.
Yeah, it was still difficult when I re-handicapped the race. I struggled to switch or not to switch, and I decided no. Algebra, that last race was an 83 buyer. Obviously, the fastest anyone has recently run. So if he can run that race back, he's going to win.
And that's his career best, too. It worries me a little picking a horse right off a career best effort.
Yeah, and a career best and a new barn. I mean, to me, I've had a lot of bad luck picking horses off a top effort. They get claimed, they go to even a good barn like this one. A lot of times they just don't run the same for the new outfit that first time back. Another thing in Algebra's credit, 3 horses have already come back to win out of that race. And Shifty Henry did earn a 91 buyer figure to kind of prove that 83 is legit. So Algebra, tough if he can run that race back. Gold Pilot, I'm taking him just off the fact I think he's run against better company. Last year he was third in the Grand Prairie Derby. That was obviously open and state bred. He's a stake winner against T-breds. This is a T-bred second level allowance. Getting a little bit better with each start. All 3 starts this year have been a little bit better than the previous one. He is stake placed this year at Houston. Like you said, I don't want him getting too far behind, but I do think the 6.5 furlongs, may really be in his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So tough call. I'm going with Gold Pilot and Island Sun. You can make a case certainly. Sprinting early in his career last year as a 2-year-old, he won his debut, won a restricted stake. Then fast forward to this year, he finished third in a couple stakes down at Houston. Has pretty good early speed. The works have been at Louisiana Downs, unfortunately, not at Lone Star, so I have not seen how he's trained up to this race. But again, it looks like he has the back class, and he could clearly win this race.
Yeah, I agree. I wound up using him 4th, though, only because behind Algebra and Gold Pilot, I used Carbon Striker, because what concerned me about this race was the pace scenario. I think Carbon Striker, especially with kind of a go rider and Ernesto Valdez Jimenez, who's good at getting them up front, the Carbon Striker might lead for a while. I mean, he's never shown the world's greatest amount of staying power, but I threw him in for third, just because I didn't want to lose, or I didn't want to leave out somebody who might lead for a long way, if that in fact is what happened.
It is interesting in the Jim's Orbit, he was 3 to 5 when he finished behind Stone Cafe. He finished behind Island Sun, but he was the 3 to 5 shot.
That is interesting.
And I do have him as wire to wire at the top of my PPs. I mean, if he gets clear, which he hasn't gotten clear in a while, but the last time he did in the Texas Stallion, he did win. So maybe he's one of those. If he can relax on the lead, he's really tough to get by.
Yeah. On to the 7th. 5/8 of a mile on the main track. Non-winners of 2. Scratch the 1, Khaki Jack. Scratch, the 5, Regal Run. By the way, I didn't mention earlier, we'll get to it later, but there's a big 6-shooter carryover. 6-shooter on races 4 through 9, 144,000 plus. We'll reiterate that later. But 7th race, scratch the 1, scratch the 5, scratch the 6.
Yeah, and like Algebra, I picked I'm a Bling Cat, which has me nervous because I'm a Bling Cat. If he'd have stayed in Broberg's barn, I really feel like he's the one to catch and beat. But it's a new stable now. Horse has been transferred over. And, it just makes me nervous because I think he's the best horse. I think he's the fastest horse. He drew a perfect post position. A lot to like with I'm a Bling Cat. Again, the vulnerability is barn changes. I mean, you never know if the new guy, does all the things that the previous barn, has done to make this 3-year-old, win races. Yeah. So he's the one to beat, though. The 2, Rosie's Outlaw is my next pick, has improved in each and every one of his 4 career races. Last time out in the mud, he showed a little better early speed than he had been showing. That was a clear win. I like that Carlos Padilla gets realistic with him. You win a maiden 20, go ahead and go into a non-winners of 2 for 20. Will be on the rail today, just an improving sort. And then the 4 Papa Star. Just got to love in Hot Springs. I know he was running against Arkansas-bred rivals, but the consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to love the consistency. He finished second in 3 straight races, and those were narrow second-place finishes.
Yeah.
And then guts out a win to break his maiden April 30th. So maybe he's going to run to the level of his competition. Some horses are that way, and he may pop up and pull a little upset here.
You know, the thing I really like about Papa Star is he gets a furlong less today. I mean, he was knocking heads pretty competitively against Arkansas breds at Hot Springs, going 6 furlongs and 5.5 on one occasion. And now he gets to only go 5/8. I used him second here. I mean, I'm a blink cat I'm kind of left with. I really liked Regal Run off a bottom-level maiden win romping last time because I thought he did it easily, but he's out. So, you know, I'm a blink cat's liable to be a pretty short price, but I took him over Papa Star and Rosie's Outlaw. Yeah. On to the 8th. I think this is a tough race. Take out the 2 Dancing Chicken, who was undefeated. Non-winners of 3 here going 6 furlongs. We have different top picks here. And I'm really wide. I mean, I think really a wide open race. I mean, your morning line favorite, Bank, is not either of our top picks.
No, in a race like this is the race I always make my best long shot. I know Hondo Lane's only 5-1, but it was a short field. I decided to go with this one off the works. I do clock here. This 4-year-old's been just earning bullet after bullet. Coming in from Arizona, we've had a couple win from there. If you look at some of those races at Canterbury, pops a big buyer figure of 86 last summer, winning at 2 other than condition, or finishing second. So it looks like his best races are good enough. If he takes to the Lone Star Surface like he did the Canterbury Surface, which it appears he is, based on morning breezes, I just felt like he's very dangerous. One thing that also made this race, you probably noticed this. How do you know who's going to make the lead in here? Because the front runners are front-running route horses. Yeah. It's really not a front-running sprinter in this race, which also adds...
Dancing Chicken might have made the lead if he had stayed in it. He was the main speed, I think.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Once he scratched, all of a sudden it was a head-scratcher to who's going to make the front. Yeah. I did take Bank. A nice allowance win at Oaklawn, just 2 starts back as the favorite. Last time out at Oaklawn, he had a bit of a trouble trip, so we can, give him an excuse there. I think if he runs the race back he ran it in Hot Springs March 28th, then he's going to be really flying late and probably will win. The 3 Flexati, who's got those really competitive buyers, a couple route races at Houston where he wins one. He runs a really strong 4th last time out. Just cutting back to his sprint distance, which he has fared well. He hasn't won in 4 sprint races, but he's been second twice, third once. His buyers look really good. So a tough race for a short field.
Yeah, I mean, I went with the 6 General Trev. It's not my most confident pick, especially after I wasn't necessarily firing with all cylinders last night, but that was a different night. We won't dwell on that. I'd love General Trev if he showed a work since April 11th, which was his last race, but he's been claimed for $25,000. He's been claimed for $30,000. He's only been to the post 5 times. I mean, those are pretty good level claims. I mean, people have been laying out some money for this horse. He did have some traffic last time out in his start. I just wonder where he's been. You don't show any works on your PPs for him, do you? So that's a concern, but I'm going to give him a shot in here. I don't know. I just thought it was so wide open. I was going to look for a price. Bank still didn't show a whole lot, even though he did have trouble in his last start, but you got to respect his overall body of work. And then Hondo Lane, I really like Hondo Lane. I mean, he's run well fresh, too, which, he's going to be really dangerous in this spot. But, Flexati and Calhoun's horse, too, who has a touch of route speed, are dangerous, too. So I think that's a pretty big spread race since it's a short field.
Yeah, alternate time. Since you mentioned him, I mean, his sprints are better than his routes. He's been routing quite some time, so he's intriguing as well.
On to the last race here, a first-level allowance, Texas Breds at 1 mile. You know, John Doe is 4 to 5 on the line, and he does have, you know, numbers that appear to be very solid. Something about, I mean, I picked him, but there's something about him that I just
you don't trust
fear.
Him.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand. I had him 7 to 5 originally, but then I started looking at the horses I picked second, third, and fourth. I thought, why will these horses take money? They never take money. You know, like Excalibur Ridge, he was 24 to 1 last. I mean, horses that never take money, even when you think they're going to, they usually don't take as much as you think they should.
Especially in a race like this that's on the turf. It wasn't off the turf, and if it was gutted with scratches, might be different. But you're right. He's never less than 11 to 1 on any of these lines that I'm looking
which
at.
is
He's usually much higher than that.
Yeah, which is very interesting. And John Doe's usually overbet. You know, unfortunately,
and he'll be overbet today.
He will be overbet today because, frankly, I think his odds of winning are like my original line, 7 to 5. But it's Asmussen, Elliott. The horse is always favored. I think he's got a talent advantage, and I'm taking him in here. I didn't want to pick the 8 because I don't like saying a horse's name I don't know how to pronounce.
Harry Celestic, man.
Yeah, let's go with that. And he's run some really good races, though. He's got buyer figures. You see at Houston in February where he was narrowly beaten a 70, which is right at par for what he has to do today. He's running against stake rivals. He's got good early speed coming off 2 turf sprints, too. That's why I think he's dangerous today. Off the turf sprints, go to the front, and he'll lead, I think, as far as he can lead. I like the 4, Excalibur Ridge, just because he earned a really good figure, finishing third last time out. Adding blinkers, that might help. He comes into this race, you know, fresh. He's not been the type that runs big fresh, but he has run, you know, he's run typically how he typically runs when he's fresh. You're just going to have to hope that the blinkers on is going to move him up a touch.
Yeah, I wound up using him third. It's odd that for a horse that's 1 for 25 and generally been in the mix in a lot of races, he's never run second, which is an oddity.
Yeah.
You know, I went with John Doe as well. Again, not an emphatic pick. My sort of long shot release here is Danny Pish in the 6 Texas Prado. I'm taking a little bit of a page out of your book, Sprint to Route. You know, he does show 1 turf race. It was a turf sprint back in April. Pretty good field with Captain St. Jacques, and he was only beaten 2 1/4 lengths, made up a little bit of ground. I think he sprints like he might like the route of ground. And, you know, that turf race wasn't bad. It certainly was about as good as his main track races. And so I think maybe Pish on the stretch-out angle with Lane Leslie, who's you can't get much hotter than he's been. I got him slotted in for second. Then Excalibur Ridge and Harry Celestic, man. But I'm using all of them in the pick 4 that I suggested because I just don't think you can hitch your wagon to John Doe.
No, and I don't think we'll hit the buyer par 71 in here.
I don't think so either.
Unless John Doe runs big, and I'm not anticipating him running big, but I do think he'll run down what's in front of him. I hope.
I think so, too. For those of you joining us on track, $2.75 margaritas, Miller Lite drafts available, and our Friday promotion, which is behind us in the courtyard on the other side of the paddock, called Happy Hour with the Horses. There's also appetizer specials, so if you're joining us on track, you can head over there, and there's some nice seating areas on the courtyard. That pick 6 or 6-shooter carryover, $144,908. The 6-shooter starts with the 4th. Good to be back on turf. Rick, I like a couple of your picks today. Sometimes when we leave here and I like your picks, I do okay. And sometimes when I really like my picks, I don't do as well, so we'll see how it all shakes.
Yeah, I'm just thankful we're on the turf, and I got to pray away the rain overnight so we can be on turf the rest of the weekend.
That would be big. All right, thanks for your help as always. Thanks for looking in, and enjoy the day.